everybody? Welcome to another edition of State Champs Hang Time. We promise we are going to condense this version so it is not quite so long. We were very long-winded on Hazel Park and Clarkston, and then, of course, that game blew up within the first 5 minutes. So we are going to definitely just kind of condense our opinions. We want to hear from you, though, of course, in our mailbag. So tweet at us, go to our Facebook page, make comments there, comment when you're listening or watching this particular podcast. You can watch it on our website. You can watch it on our Facebook page. We'll have Twitter clips. Of course, we're on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud. So lots of ways you can listen. This is Hang Time. You can maybe have to search State Champ Sports, but whatever, put those words together and it will come up somewhere. Anyway, want to welcome the boys quickly. TJ Kelley.
Hey, how you doing?
What's up? Scott?
Hey, I just want to say, whenever we get carried away, it's not for lack of love
and passion.
Or passion for what we do. It's just, sometimes.
Even though we were completely wrong last
sometimes
week.
it can be intense. Yeah.
And Jeff Dullack,
what's going on?
All right, here we go, guys. First off, and this is not a topic, I just want to mention, because we talked about it at the top of the show last week, Blake Griffin is, 4-0, right, with the Pistons right now.
I'm ready to backtrack off my original.
Porzingis now out for the season with the ACL, so you can kiss the Knicks goodbye. There's obviously craziness. Right.
Yeah. He's a lot more engaged and embracing the kind of role of leader and of the face of the franchise than, I thought he was going to be. I thought he wasn't going to embrace it. I thought he was going to be more of a cancer, and he's been great.
Cleveland's falling apart. Boston is good, but, we'll see. Again, these injuries just keep seeming to happen. John Wall's out for a while now.
If he can stay healthy,
they're still winning.
Yeah.
However, they need John Wall if they want to go anywhere.
I agree. Well, I think also that this is a great way for Blake Griffin to really reinvent himself.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
When you're that age, you're it's either fight or flight. Fight or flight.
Yes.
So yes. Or I was thinking flee.
Yes.
But then
No, you're right. Exactly. He's at the point in his career now he can reinvent himself. He can recreate himself. He had that DeAndre Jordan connection forever. Andre Drummond is better.
His body language is telling me everything, and I was worried I was going to be seeing the opposite.
Right.
Someone that who was demonstrating by his actions, not necessarily by his words, because everyone's going to say what the right thing to say. But I was thinking he was going to come in here and he wasn't going to be. Everything he's doing, every movement, every word is the right thing, and he just seems to really.
It's a big week this week. Obviously, we can come back next week and have a completely different attitude, but
they'll be 4-4 this time.
But we'll see. And sometimes, great players make other players better. And it seems like for right now, everyone's buying in.
I'm just impressed by his willingness to be here.
Bullock is playing the best I've seen him play in his career. And Tolliver just keeps making shots. Ish Smith is running the floor faster than anybody in the league. He's up and down is faster than anyone in the league.
Yeah.
And Reggie Jackson will be back in a week or so.
Ish Smith's playing his best basketball of his career the last 2 weeks.
But the important thing is that the Pistons are 1-0 with Kay Felder playing.
Right.
So
yes, exactly. We got that Detroit connection and love going.
The next Lou
it was cool seeing him with the red, white, and blue.
So that's it. Let's get to our first segment here, which we talk about rankings. We talk about what TJ Kelley has put together, kind of where we were last week, where we are now. We still have Skyline number 1.
They're undefeated. They're rolling. They're winning, and when you look at their schedule,
can they run the table?
I think that they can. I'm a fan of. I just like to see a little bit of adversity. I don't think that a loss and stuff like that is detrimental.
Can go miles. Yeah.
So Skyline, they do have a lot of experience. I think they've got Pioneer coming up, another game with Huron, and then some road games that are coming up. But Skyline is rolling. Brandon Wade. We've talked about him in the past.
Yes, we have.
He's playing very, very well, as the rest of the team. Jack Ammerman's playing well. Ryan Wade. Well.
Yeah.
So that's
they're deep,
baby bro.
They're deep.
Yeah. And then they've also got Munson, who's playing really well as well, who can provide something down in the middle.
The one concerning thing with Skyline right now, when you're looking at their trend towards a deep playoff run, is the size. If they match up with a team like Clarkston or a team like UAD Jesuit or East Lansing, can they overcome that size disadvantage? Whether it's Taylor Curry, Julian Thomas, right?
Jalen Thomas.
I'm sorry, Brandon Johns. Can they overcome that? Size mismatch.
I'm not dismissing that, but to me, with this level, great guard play, senior experienced guard play wins in the tournament.
Right.
And they've got one of the best two-headed monsters in the backcourt.
Without a doubt.
Forget about what's going to happen at the next level.
And Ryan
But
Wade
Jack
is extremely
Ammerman-
underrated.
Yeah, I almost say the three-headed or not four-headed monster.
Yeah.
But one thing I always look at Class A, which is different than all of the other classes, it's almost imperative that you have a big.
Mm-hmm.
And the last team that
No,
won,
I'm not
the last
dismissing
team
it.
was 2006 in Saginaw Arthur Hill, and that was with Dar Tucker, who was 6'5" and more of a wing.
Yeah.
But, it was phenomenal. But it's that I think that's where
Hey, let's be honest though.
they don't have a Dar
Skyline,
Tucker on that team.
Making it to
as good as Brandon Wayne
I'm
is.
not diminishing their state title hopes, but making it to the Final Four would be a
big.
huge
Oh,
deal for
big step.
Ann Arbor Skyline basketball.
There's no
No way.
question.
Yeah, I could see them.
Would they raise a banner or not?
And once you're there, it's anybody's ball
Yeah.
game.
Yes. But I'm
Especially,
saying even if they-
especially once you get into the second half of that semifinal and you're still
Yeah, but
hanging
even if
around,
they
all of
don't
a
win-
sudden you. Yeah, I know you're right.
This is
right.
the kind
It's
of
not a disappointment.
This is the kind of program where it's not state
They're gonna
championship
grow
or
from
bust,
here.
in my opinion.
Right. They're
Skyline
just getting
opened
started.
In what year did Skyline open? Like 08?
It's
Something
only
like
been
that?
around a decade.
You know, for a team to
most.
make it to the Breslin Center in the first decade of the school's existence is
And
a
in
heck of a
Class
feather
A,
the
in
cap.
boys basketball.
Theron
that's
Wilson
saying
Jr.
something.
Yeah,
Right.
right there.
Right.
And the son of the great Don Darrow, superstar on the hardwood. I just wanted to just emphasize for the kind of the college recruiting heads out there that maybe get too tied up in the rankings. Just because this, I call it a two-headed monster, you call it a four-headed monster, of Brandon Wade and Jack Ammerman. These two might not have the Big Ten offers or the SEC offers, but pound for pound at the high school level, they can go head-to-head with any backcourt in the state. And that's a difference maker.
Let's talk about the resilience of Hazel Park. Obviously, a humiliating loss to Clarkston on the road.
Yeah.
They finally, you talk about
It wasn't
a
on
loss
the road, it was at home.
Right, I mean that's right at home. You talk about a loss you can build on. Well, they went ahead and then beat Benton Harbor on Saturday.
That game was nowhere near the 57-50 ending. I mean, it was Hazel Park's game pretty much from the onset. They had 20-point leads. If they wanted to win by 20, if they wanted to win by 30, I believe they could have done that. Scooby Johnson was the only person that really showed up for Benton Harbor. And, there were some other guys that got some filler points at the end of the game. But Hazel Park came out there, and it was, the thing was, it was like all of a sudden now it became business.
Mm-hmm. But you know what that tells me about that loss?
For them.
Go ahead.
It tells me they got to stop reading their press clippings.
Right.
Because there's no question that up and down that roster, that team is as talented as any in the entire MHSAA right now.
Sure.
And they had just TJ and I were there the game before. They had just come off just bullying a very good Troy team, just manhandling them, and they were anticipating they were just going to show up, and whether or not they were going to win by 10 points, 20 points, that they were going to win that game just by getting on the floor and playing their A game. Well, they came and they played their C game.
And they were in a position maybe Clarkston was a couple of years ago, as they were now getting all the hype and all this stuff, and maybe Lawyer as a sophomore, they're like, oh, they're ready to go, ready to win it. Well, they weren't ready.
Right.
Yeah.
But, again.
They're kids.
Yes.
And the thing is,
this could be good.
I think that there was a lot of pressure. Sometimes when you guys, it's almost like if you're a golfer, and you're standing out there, and I played Oakland Hills, and I remember if I play this hole, I'm going to finish shooting a 71. Well, reality is there are bunkers and there's some other stuff in the lake, and all of a sudden there's some wind that comes along.
PGA Pro Zone,
and all of a sudden you get some added nerves that come on. And Carl Bowe and Dave Hearns, a lot of shots that they were missing. This last Friday or whatever day, Tuesday or whatever it was, on the 30th. Those are shots that they usually make.
And those two had a combined 4 points.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm just saying you can't.
Yeah, but they
talking about
rebounded.
great guard play, and that's a great backcourt.
And they rebounded very well on Saturday.
All right.
The one quick thing with Hazel Park goes back to what TJ said about Skyline. A loss isn't the worst thing to happen to a high school team, and when it comes to Hazel Park, that loss might have done a lot more good than a win over Clarkston may have done. It's a slice of humble pie.
All right, so let's wrap on this, our first segment, and let's talk quickly about, I'd like you to kind of expand a little bit on the PSO playoffs that are getting going this week. Also, we saw what Detroit Henry Ford is able to do. You've got them moved up to number 8 now in the Super 10. Our main event, for those who watched State Champs on Sunday, was Henry Ford sweeping Cass Tech. This one at Cass Tech, playing very well. Some high-flying highlights. And, Henry Ford really gaining a lot of momentum out of that one.
One thing I looked at Ford, and no disrespect to Benton Harbor, New Haven, River Rouge, but their schedule is just so much tougher than these other three teams. And pretty much everybody else is in Class B. I think their schedule is with hands down. And then I also moved them up because they wound up winning the West. They wound up winning at Cass Tech. They lost to Renaissance at the buzzer. So they could have easily ran the table, in the PSL West. Obviously, it didn't happen.
Right.
But a lot of people are talking about Henry Ford being the sleeper, or maybe not even being that much of a sleeper to win the PSL championship.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And how's that looking right now? How is it laid out? How's the PSL playoffs going to happen here?
Oh, wow. Yeah, let's say this. Northwestern almost beat King. I was at the game yesterday, 5 overtimes.
Talking about Tuesday's game. Yep.
Tuesday's game, and that was
5 overtimes.
That was phenomenal. And
5 overtimes.
Yeah, I want to leave.
Keeping track on TJ's Twitter.
Hey, I want to leave in the Pershing game, and then somebody was like, "Hey, the King game is an overtime," And I was like, all right, well, I'll head on over there. I wasn't expecting to watch a full game.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Super soft Stevie Pearson, Northwestern, giving King all they can handle.
Yeah, so with Western beating Denby, they'll play King. And that game is at Western at 5 o'clock on Friday.
Yep.
Then you've got Pershing that is going to meet up with Henry Ford. That's a 7:30 game at Western.
Wow.
On the other side of the Western, on the West bracket.
That'd be a good game.
Yep. On the East bracket, Mumford, undefeated, but who have they really played?
Right.
Then Depsa goes in there and rolls them last night. Then Cass Tech winds up winning handily against Detroit West Side. Detroit Renaissance wound up beating Southeastern handily again. And East English Village beat Cody. So East English Village is going to wind up playing Renaissance, and that's going to be a 7:30 game at King. And at 5 o'clock on Friday, also on Friday, is Cass Tech is going to play Depsa. So good East-West matchups.
Both at King.
And both those games are at King as well. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty good one. The semifinals at Cass Tech, people are already talking about it pretty much no matter what the outcome of Friday's games are, that it's going to be really exciting for the semifinals next Tuesday.
All right. The State Champs HangTime Podcast is brought to you proudly by Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser. Go to doughrazor.com, and also by the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. bcam.org is the website. When we come up, we're going to talk some up-and-comers in A and B and just kind of give us a weekly update on some other teams and how they're doing in those divisions. Stay with us.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for one medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughrazor.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, welcome back to Hang Time. Time to get to the up-and-comers segment for this week, and we want to kind of give you an update every week on some teams that might make a run, might be able to make some noise, and we'll talk about Class A. There's a whole host of teams that are knocking on some of the doors. Who are some of the ones that you want to talk about?
Let's say this. West Ottawa, they beat Carman Ainsworth in Grand Rapids this past Saturday.
Okay. West
Ottawa they've got some players on that team. They don't have the big, but they do have Drew Bozma, who's going to play for Miami of Ohio in baseball. But then they've also got another kid, Drew Pedersen, who can really shoot the ball. And they've got your guard in Xavier Wade, who's going to go play at Ferris State, who we've talked about in the past. Ferris State isn't your average Division II program.
Right.
So I think that they might be one of those sleepers. But then, again, they're still knocking on the door of Ann Arbor Skyline, of Clarkston, obviously. Hazel Park, I'm still going to throw in that mix. I'm not ready to throw Cass Tech out.
Right.
I just think that they kind of hit a lull, and they've got to kind of find themselves and maybe find a score.
Yeah.
Somebody who can go out there and get buckets when they need to get buckets.
What else you got?
I'm a big fan of how West Bloomfield looks right now. I think that's a team. Donovan Moore transferred in. I think with that kind of gives them the same dynamic they had with Kevin McAdoo a year ago, helped lead them to the Breslin Center.
And all due respect to Kevin McAdoo, Donovan Moore is a more of a playmaker,
right,
and a bigger difference maker.
Yeah.
And Kevin McAdoo was a big difference maker, and etched his name into West Bloomfield sports history by almost, all due respect to the rest of the team, but almost single-handedly carrying them to the Breslin last year.
Yeah.
So this is no disrespect to him,
yeah,
but he doesn't play. Donovan Moore plays at a level that's above the rim. He can slash, he can get out in transition, he can score from the outside, and he's more of a complete package than McAdoo. And what I saw against Southfield Christian last week was one of the better first half performances I've seen in my 10 years. He had 21 points in the first half, 5 slam dunks, and just controlled tempo, controlled, just you really took over that game in the first half. Ended up with 31, coming off a 40-point effort the week before that. As Jeff said, he transferred in from Chicago over the summer. He's the grandson of the former great West Bloomfield head coach Larry Moore of Detroit Mumford fame back in his playing days. And he has taken the state by storm. First month in the state over the summer, picks up 10 Division I offers, and he is as advertised.
Yeah, he's really good. He had 4 dunks in a row to end the first quarter and start the second quarter.
He had one was a tip jam coming off, a guy coming kind of out of nowhere where these two guys are battling up down by the post.
Right.
The next thing you know, he's coming in one-handed, flushing it in.
The X factor for that team to me is Trey Harvey, just a sniper on the wing.
But he's had to, to his credit, he's had to take a step back and embrace more coming into the fold and transfer Jalen Kelso, KLAA selection last year. He's coming in averaging almost a triple-double. Hats off to Trey Harvey for agreeing to move over to the point guard slot and be more of a distributor rather than a kid that was coming into a senior year, and I think a lot of people anticipated he was going to take that 15-point a game scoring average up to 20, and instead he's had to go back to about 10.
Right. I could see that helping his recruitment. Yeah, Trey Harvey. One thing I look at, the stats aren't everything, and I think that the maturity level, there are not a lot of kids that are 17 years old that are willing to take that step back. It's the same thing with, you've got a kid that's playing 28 minutes or 30 minutes in a game, and all of a sudden they become a freshman in college. And they're getting limited minutes to 5 minutes to 8 minutes or something like that, and maybe only 2 shots.
You got to do most with your time.
So what do I got? What else can I do that's going to really help me out? And that's only going to help out Trey Harvey's overall game, and in the end, it's going to be beneficial to West Bloomfield.
One more note about West Bloomfield: they're only 7-6. 4 of their 6 losses have come on the last possession. They lost at the buzzer to Henry Ford and Rouge. They were up 3 in the last 2 seconds. Rouge threw in like a 35-footer to take it to overtime.
And Mark White magic.
Yeah, lost by 1 to Hazel Park, lost by 1 to Troy. So this is a team whose 7-6 record is pretty deceptive.
It's not indicative.
And Troy's another team that I think is really on the up and coming.
They got to get healthy.
Who will they have in the districts, West Bloomfield?
West Bloomfield district.
Orchard Lake St. Mary's, usually North Farmington.
I'll
tell you this, Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
Orchard Lake. That will be the battle.
That'll be a good one.
Lorne Bowman hit like a half court.
Hit a half court to beat De La Salle over last week.
Yeah,
and he's a guy that's been a difference maker for Orchard Lake St. Mary's too. And if it's pretty much the winner of that district, I think, can make a really deep run in the tournament, whether it's West Bloomfield or St. Mary's.
The key for Troy is getting Jason Dietz back into the lineup. He hurt his knee a couple weeks ago, got it scoped. He's supposed to be back in the next week to 10 days. If he can come back and hit the ground running, this is a team that's got a real great shot at making a long run. They went to the quarterfinals last year, in the Class A quarterfinals, and have the whole team back.
All right.
So
how about a couple in B, Class B?
Hey, you know what? I just talked with, we talked about Henry Ford earlier in the day. Rouge undefeated, New Haven undefeated. You look at New Haven's schedule, and it's just like, oh, man, just play somebody. Well, they've got Saginaw Arthur Hill that's coming up in the future, and they also play Beecher. They host both of those games.
I'm not sure that classic against Beecher last year went like 3 overtime, something like that.
Yeah, and that was, I believe, this guy. What's his name? Eric Williams. Yeah.
Right.
Pretty solid
what he's doing in college right now.
He's doing all right.
Is he taking the A10 by storm?
Yeah. By far the shocker or something like that. I just saw Keith Dambrot a couple weeks ago, and he was like, hey, Eric Williams.
We were talking to Coach Thomas about it after the West Bloomfield Southfield Christian game, and he said no one could have anticipated the impact that Eric Williams is making as a true freshman on Duquesne right now. And Coach Thomas, the former Eastern Michigan great, said probably the best rebounding guard he's seen in the last decade plus.
Yeah, well, that's very beneficial.
Isn't that crazy how sometimes they just shoot to the moon?
Hey, and when the light comes
right
on
situation,
for so many, and the opportunities that came on, we're just talking about the right situation.
Yeah.
But I think, but there's some others in Class B.
I like Frankenmuth.
Yeah.
Frankenmuth.
Mario Whitley,
who looks
Saginaw
like
Valley
he's
State.
a college senior.
He's
out on the court.
He's headed to Saginaw Valley State, and he's a guy that is a game changer up in the Flint-ish area. And I think
I think that he's only Frankenmuth, to me, they lost to Bridgeport. And I'm looking at the AP rankings, and I'm just like, how do you have Bridgeport above, behind Frankenmuth? And it is what it is.
Well, that's valid.
But at the same time, I'm looking at Bridgeport. They've got a kid. They've got Charles Garrett, who's a senior, and then they've got a couple of juniors in Markel Garrett and Sirquavius Ball. But I think that Bridgeport just brings a little bit more. And I've seen Frankenmuth. I've been up there to watch them play. Andy Donovan does a great job. But at the same time, I think that you need more than one piece.
Right.
If you're going to really make that deep run, and the chances of them meeting up against Bridgeport or something like that in the regionals, that might be a problem. And they play 2 Fridays from now.
Yeah.
And do you think Old Redford's a year away? Because you got some good guys coming in next year for sure.
Yeah, and they're going to have Dreyon O'Neal,
That's right.
who wound up leaving Depsa to go to out west, and that didn't wind up working out, and now he's back. So yeah, they've got to figure out what's going to work out for them. This past Saturday, some people might give knocks to Rocket Watts, and maybe they went to Isaiah Jackson a little bit too late in the game. They just
who did they lose to?
Ooh, they lost to Grand Rapids Union, who's not bad.
Yeah.
They're a solid team. They're the host school.
I'm not trying to put Coach Covington on the spot or anything, but if that team doesn't make a run to the Breslin Center, I'm not saying again. I'm not talking about winning state titles. But I'm saying if that team doesn't make a long run,
At least get in the regionals.
you got to make a regional run.
I'm expecting quarterfinals or
quarterfinals,
Final Four for this group.
Yeah. They need some regional hardware at least to put in the rafters.
If they don't reach that level, it's a disappointing season.
Another team in Class B to watch for, and they've made their name well known the last 3-4 years, but it's Godwin Heights. We talk about these top.
They struggled
against
on Tuesday. Yeah, Kelloggsville gave them a run.
Yes,
I mean they closed it out, but Kelloggsville
and Pershing, same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had 2 tough games.
But
yeah, that's a good.
You look at
program.
Godwin Heights team. We're talking about kind of that top 4 or 5, and the Rouges, the New Havens, Benton Harbor, Henry Ford. But if there's that 5th team in that mix that has to be there, I think it's Godwin Heights, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're holding up the title at the end of the year.
I hope so.
We'll have highlights of that Kelloggsville game on State Champs this Sunday.
Cool. One thing with Godwin, they're one of those teams where they can beat themselves.
True.
When they've got to go out there and they've got to play their game. They've got to treat it like a business trip rather than a social experiment.
Right, because at home they're so unstoppable, but then it's doing it on the road. Right,
and one of the teams that is also in the rankings is Williamston, who seems to be a thorn in. Well, last year they wound up beating Godwin Heights. Yeah. And Williamston is by far one of the better teams that I've seen. Their points.
The Hornets.
Their point guard Case Connolly is good. I've talked to some Division IIs, and he reminds me of the kid that was at Wayland Union last year.
That's right.
Who's maybe a little bit smaller, but he just goes out there and it's tough as nails, gets things done. And then they've also got 3 juniors who go 6'6", 6'7", in Joseph Hannenberg, Sean Cobb, and Case Connolly is the other senior. But Cole Cliver was the point guard that I was talking about. So those 3 big juniors at 6'6", 6'7", and they're versatile as well.
All right, guys, so that's what's happening right now. We're going to take another break, and we're going to bring in Dan Young, and we're going to have our B-Camp site. We're talking referees this week. You have a special guest, so you have to stick around, see who that is. It's coming up next, so stay with us. These guys will be back for the mailbag to close it out.
Welcome to Be the Referee with MHSAA Assistant Director Mark Ewell.
Many times the MHSAA gets asked questions in each sport. How are the national playing rules written? The MHSAA is a part of the National Federation of State High School Associations. The NF, this organization based out of Indianapolis, works to write the playing rules in all sports sponsored by the MHSAA. The primary focus of all National Federation playing rules is on the health and safety of those playing the game. For suggestions each year, states all across the country can introduce proposals for change, and then through the voting process, rules get approved for the following season.
Thanks, Mark. You can be a referee. Go online now to sign up at MHSAA.com. Be the Referee is a production of the MHSAA Network.
All right, welcome back to the State Champs HangTime Podcast. And it is time now for our BCAM segment of the week. And, of course, joining me always is Dan Young of BCAM. And we have a special guest today. Dan, why don't you introduce this young gentleman here?
This is Wallace Whitfield, great friend, great official. And he's going to talk a little officials and help us out and kind of get the word out about the shortage of officials in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, so Wallace is with the Basketball Officials and Coaches Communication Committee, otherwise known as the BOCCC or the BOCCC, if you want to get crazy.
I like that.
So BCAM and the BOCCC together, and you guys do have a long-standing relationship in trying to support each other, correct?
So this committee is BCAM, the MHSAA, and the officials, and it's probably going 20 years or so, and it is a tremendous committee to try to work together for the betterment of the game, and we come up with ways of lots of things, evaluating officials and coaches and getting the best referees at the end of the year. Touch on anything else with the committee that tries to do, Wallace?
Well, we try to work hard with a lot of the coaches out, not just in the metro area, throughout the state of Michigan, when it comes to sportsmanship, when it comes to coaches versus officials. We want to combine that together so we all have one big happy family. We don't want to be all on a different level than each other.
All right. Well, I want to start by throwing out some facts and then getting some responses from you and you too, Dan. The number of registered Michigan High School Athletic Association officials has fallen from about 12,400 to about 10,000 over the past decade, so that's close to 20%. Wow. It's estimated that the average age of a referee, umpire, or official is 56 years old, and some say that number is rising. Now, obviously, baseball and some other sports add a few years to that, but in general, 50-plus for pretty much sports across the board, I would say. There was a time when teachers would represent the majority of officials, but approximately of the approximately 450 that this West Michigan, I read a West Michigan article on MLive about it, 20% are teachers, and that is shorter. Obviously, 20% is not a majority when you're talking about the officials that they assign. Recruiting new officials is becoming more difficult year after year. Part of the reason is the abuse officials take, especially new officials who aren't used to, getting yelled at that. A recent MHSAA survey shows lack of sportsmanship from coaches is next, followed by poor sportsmanship from spectators. And I know that is something that the MHSAA and I'm sure that you guys are trying to address.
No question.
Because, that the new officials who draw those challenging assignments can be, they're gonna get angry. Also, the 2007 court ruling that sent the girls' season from the fall to the winter to join the boys has been an issue because, oftentimes 6 varsity officials are now needed for a Friday night doubleheader instead of 2 when the girls played in the fall. Right. So instead of scheduling 22 games on a Friday night, you're doing 44 games. That's significant. It said 10 years ago, all of a sudden they had to throw in a bunch of people doing JV just because they didn't have enough to do varsity. So that's kind of an overlay of kind of what some of the issues are. What can be done about it?
Overall, from the officiating standpoint, we've had back in the day where everybody would work at 4 o'clock and then go out in the suburbs and do it 7 o'clock. Well, guess what? Right. Those guys have all retired now.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to get these guys to hang around to help us bring in younger officials to work a freshman JV game with them. It's to the point now we are short across the state, to whereas sometimes we get in a tough jam, whereas we have to use a second-year official on varsity basketball. Now, where does that put us as officials? Because younger coaches don't understand that. And people got to realize basketball is probably the toughest sport to officiate because everybody's right there on top of you.
No doubt.
Football, baseball, they're way off. But basketball, they're right there on top of us, and you can hear every word they say. Now, you got to have a real tough skin to officiate basketball.
That's right.
So it's not so much, that the kids are scared, because we pretty much take them, in different situations over the summer and walking through them. And like me, over the summer, we have, a lot of summer leagues. And what I do is take every game I work over the summer, I've already got a young official that's 1 or 2 years, and I'm teaching them what's going on throughout the game. So that it's still an art that we need to work on, but we have opportunities out there for a lot of young officials to officiate.
Yeah, and this is, I think, the main point we want to get across. It's not that we're sounding an alarm so much as we want to inform and let people know that there are some good jobs out there available right now. Now, 10 years ago, the reason we're seeing a decrease is 10 years ago, we were in a pretty bad recession. People needed money, so they needed to find extra work. Economy's doing pretty good right now. So, it's possible. So those people who maybe would have gone out to maybe become officials, supplement their income, maybe right now don't need it as much because they're doing pretty good.
If you talk about a college kid, though, it's not bad money.
No, it's great money.
Instead of working, like you said, at a fast food restaurant, you can go and do a freshman JV game, and I don't know exactly what they make, but it's decent. It's pretty good.
You can make about $100, you said, on some nights.
$40-$50 a game.
As opposed to working all day Saturday at McDonald's.
And
or
what
Wendy's.
a way to learn how to communicate with different people, high school kids.
Yeah.
Other coaches.
It's even a good networking opportunity for you.
You meet the coach that doesn't really say anything to you, and then you meet the coach that never stops yelling at you.
Yeah.
And then the scores table, you always have different age groups there. You might have a high school kid. You might have a retired person at the scores table. It's getting all those experiences. And then when you go into a job interview, you have real-world experience. And you referee.
Talking to an adult, too.
You can,
handle yourself.
Exactly. Umpiring, you know what it's like. It's
exactly. And Wallace, you were saying that, take advantage of this because there are some associations who are offering even more money now.
You take a high school kid, the legacy program by the MHSAA.
Right.
When the kid can make $100 in 2.5 hours,
it's pretty good.
It's outstanding. And then you turn around.
Plus you're working out.
Absolutely.
Getting in a good workout.
And you're done by like 9:15. You can still go out.
Well, you're done before 9:15.
Well, that's true.
Young kids, you're done by 7:30.
Oh, right, for the young games.
4 and 5:30 games.
My bad.
Yeah,
you're right. The 7th and 8th grade games.
And then you turn around and work that on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
That's $300 in 1 week for a young kid.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, it is.
We get kids with outstanding grades that we give. I'm part of the Metro Detroit Athletic Association in Detroit, and we work on helping kids throughout school. So there's a lot of advantages for young kids to come start refereeing.
Yeah. I would say too that obviously if you get in at a young age, you do well. You've got a chance to advance to the college ranks, where now you're really talking about making some serious money as an official, and obviously can open up so many other doors for you. I would like to say the fan situation is one that I could see how some people would be a little intimidated by. I mean, I go to games, nowadays, and everyone's, sometimes I'm just like, whoa, like this is getting a little out of control, and obviously that's up to the schools. And I know the schools are trying to do their best to try to control some of that.
They are.
But I guess what I'm trying to think of, I know so many times, and I am not going to denigrate any faction of basketball. I go to AAU in the off season. I like watching those games, and I like watching the players.
Sure.
And I like watching the situation because you get to see, this is the dream matchups, because you get to see the best players in the state going up against each other. But obviously it's a more jovial, party, kind of wild atmosphere in an AAU setting. And then now, if you try to bring that to high school, it doesn't translate.
It's a different game.
Yeah.
When you play 4 or 5 games in one day or whatnot, it's probably not as tightly officiated as a high school game,
Right.
especially a championship high school game, a state
Right.
tournament game, those are very closely guarded and they are very closely officiated.
So I think some of these,
so it's a different feel.
these
obviously.
new fans with new young players, well, of course, when they're young, they all want them to be the best. They all think they're the best in the world. That's hard for an official to have to hear that, and maybe they just feel like they have their right to do that because it's been accepted, let's say, in the summer.
Well, I can tell anybody, when you go to AAU in high school, it's two different ball games.
It is.
It's totally different.
Two worlds.
It's two different worlds.
Yeah.
I mean, you got organization here with high school basketball. Over here, you got run and gun.
Right.
You're showcasing kids here.
Yeah.
And these kids here are playing for scholarships. They may never play again, but they're taught fundamentals. Whereas with AAU basketball, they're going out, hey, Nike, Adidas contracts, things of that nature, but we don't get that in high school. So, and then it's a different type of officiating when you're over here. So,
Right. Well, again, we could talk all night. I've got to kind of wrap up our conversation, but finally, if I am someone listening, and again, I think the money is great. It's a great opportunity to advance yourself as a young person, and that's what we're trying to really talk to here as young people. But of course, any adult is welcome to want to learn to become a ref. How long does it take to have to, let's say basketball, to become a referee where you can start earning some income, and what are the steps that somebody needs to take to do that?
well, the first step everyone has to do is get registered through Michigan High School Athletic Association.
Okay.
Once you get registered, and you'll take an online test, and then on the website, whatever area you live in, there's a signers that's on the website that can help you in your area to get started.
Okay.
Most young guys, once they get started, go to a small camp over the summer, and it's a couple days, and most of the signers will let those guys come free because we are in need of officials.
Right.
It's not a cost or anything.
Right.
I mean, I do camps twice a summer, and anybody that wants to come, I let them come so we can get our numbers to where we need to be.
Yeah.
So then once we do that and get them trained and work with them over the summer, then we get them registered through the arbiter, get them on, and then we start assigning them games. So it's pretty quick.
Okay.
A couple months at the most that we can get them going.
Anything else you want to give a shout there?
Do you find that officials have to be former players, or can they really become good officials even if they weren't great players?
Absolutely. You don't
See,
even
that's
have
the
to
thing.
play
You don't
basketball.
have to be
Great
a
question.
great basketball player or football player to be an outstanding official and be a part of the game. So.
As a matter of fact, I just got 2 ex-coaches that I just got started
All right.
officiating. So
Right.
coaches, anyone that wants to do it, we like to have them.
All right, real quickly, as we kill here, if you go to bcom.org, you can see something kind of cool right now that's just kind of in a trial mock-up phase, just having some fun, right? When we're talking about seeding for playoffs, and this is one of these things that has obviously is a huge hot button issue. But you guys are doing that just to put it out there and see what the response is.
Keith Guy from Muskegon High School is our committee chairman of the seeding. We have polled our coaches, and it was over 75%. And Kevin Palga from Michigan State has a KPI formula that he has put together. And so we have taken it to the MHSAA. It did not pass. They're looking at some alternate things that maybe we could do. But for the current year, we asked them if we could do a trial of what it would look like. It's not what it is, 'cause
right?
But what it would look like, and it's on www.bcam.org, and you can see where the rankings are as of right now.
Where do they go? What do they click on?
They'll have to just find the KPI. Look at anything with seating.
Okay.
And you can be able to find it.
Okay.
And what that's going to show is just what it would be. So just for example, top teams in one district, you could have the top 2 teams in the state There's some hockey situations we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And obviously basketball, we've had some.
Saginaw, Arthur Hill.
It goes
we
on
saw
and
that
on.
in many years.
Girls, you've got Howell, Heartland, and Brighton all together in girls this year, and that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
So those, if they were ranked 1 through 4 or 5, they would start to spread out in different districts and still meet in regionals.
Right.
So basically,
or maybe later in quarters and semis.
Our thing is that you would have better matchups later. You would have hopefully better crowds later.
Yeah.
And then
better games later.
Yeah. And then you get to the state tournament. You want the best teams in the state tournament.
Yeah.
You want to have the top teams playing for the state championship. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Again, it's been pushed by BCAM and our members and our committees running it, and we're just going to see how it goes and see what it looks like, and continue to push forward. If that's something that we end up getting done.
All right, I like it.
And with seeding, the best teams have earned the right to be there.
That's right.
To play at home.
That's right. All right, Wallace Whitfield, thank you for being here. Dan Young, of course.
Great job.
There you go.
Thank you.
And again, this is something that we want to put out there. We need more refs. We need more officials in all sports. Get out there, join it, make some good money, and these guys are going to support you. So that's the important thing, and it doesn't cost you anything to get started. So
Absolutely.
Do it right now, and check out the seating thing at bcam.org. All right, we'll have the mailbag with the guys when we come back.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
All right, welcome back inside the podcast room. This is the final segment of State Champs Hang Time, the podcast for all the hoops enthusiasts here throughout the state of Michigan. And we've got Jeff, Scott, TJ with me. I'm Lorne Plant. This is the mailbag segment. Yep. So this is the segment where we answer your questions and comments that you send to us. Jeff, take it away.
First off, Bruce Tony on Facebook, he wants to hear more River Rouge talk. That's a team that I think all 4 of us like, and all 4 of us wouldn't be surprised if that's the team that wins Class B. So I figured we'd do a little bit of a roll call and kind of rattle off the players that are having a great year.
And not only that, we also they're trying to get us to put them on TV as well. They're hitting us hard, but it's matchups. And a lot of times what happens is, and I want to explain this to all teams when it comes to State Champs TV. We generally, during the regular season, we do not shoot Friday games because it's very difficult for us to get the turnaround. We don't want to have our guys always working weekends because we have to do that in the state finals, and come football season, it's 15 weeks of madness. So River Rouge's best games tend to be on Friday. They're not on Tuesday. We're not in the business here of putting routes on TV as much as we can. That doesn't serve anybody well. So that's the deal. Don't worry, Rouge is going to get some love. Once we get into the playoffs, far as TV
and obviously
goes.
When you're talking River Rouge basketball right now in 2017-18, you got to start with JVN Torrance, who's one of my supersonic sleeper specials. Sorry, I had trouble getting out that. Getting that out.
SSS.
But, yeah, he's a guy that can do a lot of damage, and not a lot of people are talking about.
So lockdown defender.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing.
He's long. He's aggressive, physical.
Yeah, but one thing that I like, I want to see what you're bringing consistently to the game, and I think the defense it starts with that. It starts with a motor.
It's something that never leaves you. Sometimes your shot's missing, but if you're a lockdown defender, as long as you bring the energy and the effort, it's always going to be there for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and there's nothing more frustrating than just getting shut down.
But who wants a Matador? Matadors don't win championships. Very rarely do they win.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Correct.
The Olay defense.
Yes, exactly.
But they're deep. But the thing about River Rouge is they're deep. And when I looked at they've also got experience. Donovan Freeman has been playing pretty well. Actually, really well. Yep. And then
Legend Jeter.
Danny Few.
Legend.
Yes. Yeah. We'll look forward to talking about him over the next 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And they've got some size, and they've returned a lot of guys. A lot of those guys that were on last year's team, everybody was talking about Dre Bell and Darian Owens-White. But there weren't a lot of other guys that you really talked about. You can hone in if I'm really going in and I'm scouting them and I'm going to play them. I'm all right. If we can stop these two guys, then we'll be all right. With this year's team, I think that you've got a lot of different guys that you really have to hone in on. And most times, people don't have 5 guys that can go out there and stop.
When you have a two-way
5.
player like Freeman, when you have a two-way player like Torrance, and in a lot of ways Donovan Freeman as well, setting the pace for that team and setting the standard to play on end line to end line, baseline to baseline, then that bleeds over to the rest of the squad, and everyone's playing hard on both sides of the ball. Everyone's getting after it, and they play a very tenacious style of basketball that bodes well in tournament play.
You have Braylon Toney, who's having a big junior year there. You got guys like Dan Few, Legend Jeter, like TJ says, a young guy who's really coming along.
I know, man.
River Rats.
I don't think I've ever heard the last name Few, ever.
Mark Few.
That's true.
I don't know who that
He's
is.
the head coach at Gonzaga.
That's right.
Oh, that's
Mark
right.
Few.
Mark Few.
That's the
I didn't
only
know
other-
that's the way. He spells it F-E-W?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. Few.
All right, so
All right, what's next?
So second, we have AJ emailing in and wants, we talked about this a little bit, but he wants to know if Castech is still for real. They've had a couple of tough losses, and also is Henry Ford for real. I think we all came around and said, Henry Ford is the real deal. But can Castech make another, a deep run in the playoffs?
You start at the head of the bench in both of those conversations.
Yeah.
Steve Hall, Kenny Flowers. I mean,
both won state championship.
Yeah, 2 of the great coaches of modern PSL times. So
memory serves me. They both won PSL
Right.
championships.
Yeah.
Did Northwestern wind up winning
Yeah.
when Steve was there right before he went to Duquesne, I believe.
We won the
Duquesne.
3 straight in Class D.
Yeah, the Rogers Academy.
It all started with Eric Evans. I hope Steve Hall make sure that he
Eric Evans, who went with him to Northwestern,
yes.
I believe, and then was with him at Duquesne.
Right.
Yep.
And now he's on
Eric Evans' senior year, I think, was at Northwestern.
And now he's on Detroit Western's bench.
Yep. But I think we all think that
history
Castech
lesson, fellas.
Yes.
Eric Evans, the freshman who hit the ball.
Hit the ball,
hit the finals. That's one of the greatest
buzzer.
state champs clips of all time.
Without a doubt. I think I was standing right there, sitting right there.
I was too.
To
win the state title.
I was right there.
But I think we all believe that Castech is still for real. I think TJ mentioned it off mic. They've got to find a go-to guy to score the ball. But I think in the end, Castech is going to be just fine.
They're going to get a lot of experience out of this playoff run here, just in the city playoffs.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the PSL tournament is, and
they are the defending champs.
Yeah, and it ends 2 weeks, so you guys can still go out and find themselves, whether they win or whether they lose, the PSL championship, and they can then they can, piece together other games and stuff like that, because they have to schedule 420 games.
They still do Operation Friendship, right? That's still happening. You'll get
less fanfare.
Yeah, so it'll be Orchard Lake probably this year.
UAD Jesuit.
Undefeated.
It's
a toss-up right now in the Catholic Central.
So either way, if Castech should win it again, they'll have a good game playing that Catholic League crossover.
I wouldn't be shocked if any of those 4 teams at the top,
Catholic Central,
Orchard Lake, or UD walked away with that.
I mean, they've all been beaten up on each other. The only one who hasn't lost is UAD Jesuit.
UDJ is looking for the 6-peat.
That's right.
League.
What else we got, Jeff?
Last one, Marcus via email wants to know which team from the west side of the state has the best chance to win a state championship this winter.
Godwin Heights. I'm rolling. With Godwin Heights.
I think I'm pretty sure Godwin Heights. One thing, watching Lamar Norman, he is he's become more of an efficient player. Mm-hmm. He's more of a guy that was like, hey, I'm open, I'm going to shoot it. And you have to worry about guys like Christian Rodriguez, who's now a freshman at Cornerstone, but now I think he's assumed the role and he's embraced it.
Yep.
And then you've got Marquise Hastings, who just brings his lunch bat.
Lunch pail.
I'm a lunch pail every single game.
You can just mark him in for a double.
Right. And he's taking coworkers' lunch money and all that stuff. He's like, hey, man,
bullying to the front of the coffee machine. Bullying his way.
He's doing well for himself. But they're doing really well for themselves. And I think that that Godwin has a chance. We already talked about West Ottawa earlier in the show. I think that they might be able to make a run. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that they really have that centerpiece that they need. If they had a kid that was 6'6" or 6'7", if they had like a Zach Newcomb style.
You were kind of high on Covenant.
Yep, that was the team I was
and then Covenant, because they wound up making they wound up winning or making a run for last year's I think runner-up.
They got to the finals.
Yeah, they wound up making it to the finals. They've had some up and downs, and again, they're getting everybody's best shot,
right?
Because they know that what they've done in the past year, and so while they started off the season very hot, they've had a recent lull,
right?
Okay,
for sure.
Good deal. Hey, guys, I think that was much better.
Cool.
Good work. I think we're a little more together and organized for this one. We didn't ramble. So hope you enjoy it again. Connect with us on Twitter and Facebook. We want to appreciate our sponsors, Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser. Go to doughrazor.com, of course. BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan, appreciate you, and we appreciate you, the fans. Everything is just going to get heated up on fire. We'll have a lot to talk about next week, so make sure you join us right here on Hang Time.